come talk about that. I'm telling you, the best part of this show sometime is in the commercial break. That was the conversation we were having. But if you have watched the news recently in the last couple of weeks, you know there's a lot going on in Haiti. We have the advantage because we have a direct link to Haiti right here in the city of Pittsburgh through an organization called FLM Haiti. Now, I'm going to take it that you know them because both of them have been on this show many times before. But we needed them to come and bring us up to speed. The Reverend Dr. Leon Pamphil, Dr. Irv Dyer, welcome back to the show. And we're going to talk a little bit about FLM Haiti and who you are and what you do. But I want to start with what people have been seeing on the news, and that is what appears to me to be dire circumstances.
Indeed, things have calmed down. Fortunately, that's the good news I have to report.
Okay.
But the previous week was very bad. People could not go out for the full week. And that created almost a humanitarian situation because people could not go to buy food. You know, the daily, the common Haitian, they do their shopping every day at the open market.
Okay,
so when you have roadblocks and threats that you cannot go out, it was a very situation.
And so, Irv, even though Dr. Pamphil says things have calmed down, I'm sure there are still residual effects, though, of everything that have happened.
Yeah, that's right. Part of what sparked the unrest was a lot of frustration with people feel is government corruption. And so they still grapple with that every day. And that's been a long time sort of belief that the government is not doing what it should. So a lot of those tensions have risen in the past few years, the past few months. And that's why we saw this sort of outbreak of unrest and protest. Because oftentimes the people feel that the government is not listening to their needs, right? Their need to provide education, the need for better health care, for better roads, for employment opportunities, for issues of mobility, to feel that they can rise into society and have a better life, that the government ignores that. And when the people feel the government isn't listening, the protests and the shutting down of roads, and the interruption of business is one way to try to get the government's voice, right, to give themselves a voice and have the government listen to their concerns. And so what I think we saw last week and in previous unrest is the people trying to say, listen to us, listen to us, listen to us.
It's like frustration boiling over.
Absolutely.
You're trying to get someone's attention.
Absolutely.
And you're not getting it.
Absolutely.
So then, Dr. Pamphil, when we talk about then over the long term, how does the situation in Haiti become better?
Well, I think what Haiti needs is a national plan of development.
Okay.
Because the situation is that bad because we import a lot and we don't export as much. So you have an imbalance at this level, and that creates a serious economic conditions in the country. You have budget deficit, and the recent unrest was connected with that also, with the devaluation of the national currency, the good, and so the prices of daily products keep increasing. So that's make it very, very, very hard for the common person.
So you have these expenses that are going up, and Irv, I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but give me an idea, like an average income. What would that be for a family of four?
Right, so that's tough to say. Now, what statistics tell us is that the average Haitian only makes $2 to $1 a day. So if you were to average that, that's roughly $60 a month for families to live off of.
Okay.
So when you have the hyperinflation, some of which we're experiencing now in Haiti, it becomes much more difficult for families to buy water, to go to the market and purchase food, right? And so their life just becomes more difficult to manage. And that's extremely, extremely difficult in a situation where organizations like FLM are already providing so much. We're bridge organizations, right, to help people have a better quality of life. We provide medical care. We provide schools that are affordable. But in a situation like this, even that becomes much more difficult for families to even come to the schools that NGOs and other nonprofit organizations provide. It just becomes just more extremely difficult to manage the situation when inflation and the government is not listening and developing opportunities to take people forward.
Indeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial break, and then we're going to come back. We're really going to look at what FLM Haiti does, what you've done, and how folks in this area can get involved.
Thank you.
So I don't have to tell you what we're going to do. I just told you what we're going to do. We'll be right back.